A merge conflict happens when you and a collaborator make different changes to the same file. Then you both push those changes to the remote repository. In this lesson, we will address merge conflicts and how to resolve them. I originally made a project called Best App. I used the local repository from that project to make a remote repository on GitHub. I then cloned that remote repository back onto my computer and saved that project in a folder called Best App Collab. We'll use the Best App Collab project to simulate a collaborating team member. I'm going to open both projects so we can take a look at them side by side. As you can see, the projects look identical. But let's sync both of them with our remote to make sure. Open up a terminal window. One way to quickly open up a folder that you want in terminal is by using cd space and then dragging the folder right onto terminal. If you hit enter and pwd, you can see that I'm in the Best App folder. Now I'll use Git Pull to pull down any changes that might have been made on the remote repository. Great, you can see that this project is up to date with the remote. Let's check our other project, Best App Collab. And again, this project is up to date with our remote repository. When you're collaborating using Git, you'll want to do a Git pull before you start working on your project locally. This makes sure that any changes that might have been done by collaborators to the project remotely have been updated in your local project. Now that we know both projects are up to date with the remote, let's go make some changes. In the original project, I'm going to change the initial view controller over here to this blue view controller. And in the project that represents my collaborator, I'm going to change the initial view controller to be the red view controller. Let's go back to the terminal, add, commit, and push those changes. Since I'm already in the folder for our collaborator project, let's add, commit, and push those changes first. We'll use the command git add space period to stage all the changes. Let's use git status to view the staged changes. You can see that we've staged a change in our main.storyboard file. Let's go ahead and commit those changes using git commit and add a commit message. I'll use clear to get a little more space in the terminal window. Now, to commit the changes we've made locally to our remote repository, we'll use git push. All right, the changes have been pushed. Let's navigate back to our original project and add, commit, and push those changes. I'll use cd space and then drag the folder I want to go to into the terminal window and press enter. pwd just to make sure. Yep, we're in our original project, Best App. Let's add all the changes there. Run git status. And now commit those changes with a message. Get a little more room using clear. And finally, push the changes we've committed using git push. Git tells us that we can't push yet because there are changes to the remote repository that we don't have in our local repository. Git then advises us to do a git pull before pushing again. So that's what we'll do. After running git pull, we can see we have a merge conflict, and it's in this storyboard file right here. Let's run git status to confirm. And indeed, we see the main.storyboard here is the conflicting file. Well, let's open that file and fix the conflict. Use the command open space, and then we'll type in this file name here. Because the file that has the conflict is a storyboard file, Xcode is unable to render that file in Interface Builder. So in order to fix the conflict, we're going to have to open up our main storyboard.file as source code. You can do that by going to main.storyboard, right-clicking, and selecting Open as Source Code. Now this is what a storyboard looks like under the hood. It's an XML file, which is very similar to an HTML file using tags. This basically sets up all the static elements and views in our app. We can see the beginning of our merge conflict right here with this error, and starting with this head. The merge conflict starts here with this head, and then ends here with this tail. This line separates the two conflicting pieces of code, with the code on the top being the code from our project. In one version, we have the initial view controller being set to this ID, while in the other version, the initial view controller is set to this ID. We can only have one initial view controller, so one of these has to go. In this case, we'll go with the collaborators changes and delete our code. To do that, we'll need to delete the head of the merge conflict, then delete our code along with the middle separator, and lastly, delete the tail. Next, you'll need to clean the project using Command-Shift-K. We should now be able to open the storyboard back in Interface Builder and see that our project now compiles, as well as the initial view controller has been set to the red view controller. Now that we've resolved the conflict, let's add, commit, and push those changes back to the remote repository. First, add the files. Next, commit the files. And finally, push those files to the remote repository. Awesome, our original best app project is up to date. We've successfully identified and resolved our first merge conflict.